Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to episode 21 of Project LS400. Project LS400 is my 1994 Lexus LS400 which I bought 2 years ago. And the last year and a half I have been working on this car. If you want to know a little bit more about this car, I recommend you to watch episode 2. I did an introduction and a walk around of this car and also show the quirks and features and the things I had planned back then. In the meantime, we have landed at episode 21, and in the beginning of episode 20 I did a small summary of all the work I have already done to the car. Now, I thought I was halfway through. I done work in the front. I was finishing up the left-hand side of the car. I wanted to do some work here in the trunk area and then move the car over to the wall on its left-hand side to start working on the right-hand side. And then I should have been finished. But in the end of episode 19, we ran into, somewhat of an issue, namely rust. And rust is very rare on these cars, and the rust this car has was quite severe. And as you know, on this channel we work on expensive cars, we like cheap tools, we say no to turbos, and we laugh in the face of rust. So, let's see what we're up to. Okay, status report on the rust. As you can see, there's a large hole over here. It took me one little push with my finger after I took this panel off, and there's this molding over here on the lower side of the wheel arch. When I bought the car, I saw this area. I think I showed you in episode 2. I had a peek. If you look inside there, you can see that hole. That's where one of those clips of this rocker panel goes in. The lower part of the interior, the bottom of the rocker, isn't affected by rust. You see some crumbles laying over there, and on the inside you can see this nice gray area, and that's the wheel top. It's the primer. That's also not affected. It's just the outside here. And what I'm going to do first is I'm gonna clean it with some brake clean and a cloth, and then mark out the area I need to cut out. Now, I already saw this is an overlapping panel over here, so here are 2 panels, and it's also here. This is where the outside panel folds over the wheel top, the wheel well. So I want to try and peel only the outside off and make a cut only on the outside layer of this material. So here are my cut lines. I made this step in here on purpose. This is going to be quite a hard line. In this area over here, where this curve is, this concave part, will be quite hard to reconstruct. So now I'll give it a try with my light grinder and make some cuts in there. So this is the cut I made. I left a step in here, as I said. This is the brace that's behind there. It was especially rusty in the rear. I'm gonna cut that out. And in the last bit of the previous scene, you saw me, I wouldn't say struggle, but I tried to figure out how these 2 parts went together. And over here you can see this layer. I hope the camera picks it up. Now I'm not sure if that's some sort of seam sealer which is in there. But this area over here is good, and I want to see if I can fill this in this corner. So I'm going to continue grinding, but first I have to find out what material this is, if this is rust jacking or some sort of seam sealer in there. Safety first. I wanted to try and see if I could separate this outer part from the inner part, the inner skin, which is actually the wheel well, but this is too rusted, so I have to cut this section out too. As you can see, I cut out in very small steps and very small increments, but I want to leave as much as possible of the original structure intact. As you may remember from the strut tower, I lost my reference plane. That I mean the point gives me a guideline of the shape of this wheel arch. So I don't want to cut everything out and make a shape of my own. And I think we're done. And this is what it looks right now. I have all the rust is cut out. I cleaned up this area a bit, but I didn't want to cut this out. There are only 2 small pinholes in here which I can weld close. I have to do some grinding over here. I'm gonna treat these areas later on with some rust reformer. Same goes for the inside of the rocker. It's rusty up to there. You can see the small hole just above my finger there. That's where the rust stops. I'm gonna treat that with rust reformer and put some wax oil stuff in there later on. Now what I have to do is reconstruct this inner brace, this outside, and this area is over here. Now there is some rust on the wheel well on the top, but I can easily reconstruct that. And thankfully this maintained its shape, so that comes in handy. And this is the area where the top, the wheel well, and the rocker meet. I think that's going to be fairly easy to reconstruct. It's a bit on a thinner side here, but I can fill this in. Just use some slightly thicker material for this lower part, and I'll throw some seam sealer in there. Now let's head over to my bench, where I have crime scene investigation. These are all the parts that I cut out. This is what it looks on the inside. And you can see that this actually is the brace on the inside. And this in the corner is where standing water must have been that started everything out. And here's a hole with I'm not sure if it shows, this is a little bit raised. That's where a clip went in. Now, as you have seen in a recent short, this is the painted tape panel I made, or a template I made. I'm curious to see how that fits on this car. A moment. Now, this may look a bit silly, but for me it gives important guidelines for the location of these holes, because this area, this is where a circlip of the rocker cover, that plastic panel goes, and there's a hole in there for this molding. And I have no idea where these holes should be. Now I have a shape guideline and also the location of these holes I need to drill. So I'm gonna gently pull this off, and that's my project for this episode. Okay, we're a couple of days later, and I started working this evening on making the cardboard templates for the outer skin, and these are several sections. There's one here in the lower wheel well on the outside. This is the wheel arch, and this is the part that covers up the rocker panel. The small piece I need to make in there. The most difficult part on the outside is where this concave part is. So what I did, I made a template with painter's tape. I pushed it in there, and I can shape it into it. Now I'm gonna trace this over to a piece of cardboard, and that should fill in that gap. And basically with that I should have the basic shape of the exterior skin panel that I need. And there it is, the cutout. Well, I have to hammer that in and got it welded onto there. But once I have this shape out, the outer skin, I can shape this to form. So that's all the template work for the outside done. Now it's just a matter of taking this off, transferring it to metal and make a cutout. Also I made a scribe line here of what the shape of the wheel arch will be. And I'm gonna extend this part all the way to there. This lip over here. I'm gonna do that later once I have this shape cut out, because first I also need to make a template for the wheel well for the tub. Now here's my template for the brace that's hiding behind the rocker panel. There are some weird steps in here and there's a cutout there, and I had it ended here. I'm not sure how the other brace where it actually ended, but what I am going to do is drill some holes in the outside panel and make some plug welds or rosette welds that can attach to this part over here, so it has some structure back in it. And I have decided I'm going to use a template for the outer wheel arch for this tub on the inside, and then I should have everything closed up. And I poked my finger inside here and there's some sort of foam. There's this foamy stuff in there, so I try to get out as much as possible. If you peek through that hole there, you can see the stuff there, and that starts to burn once I'm welding, so I'm trying to get that out as much as I can. And then once I have the wheel tub on the inside filled in, I can weld everything together and close it up with a seam sealer, same as the factory did. Alrighty folks, this may seem as a big leap in scenes, but I'm only an hour in on the following day. I spent 30 minutes making the sheet metal cutouts and forming them. And this is the second one that's in the corner. But things are already starting to take shape. The complex curves over here are needs a bit of a fine-tuning. I need to make a small insert here. Then I'm good. You can see there's a gap. I have to bend it back. But everything down here all fits nicely. So I'm happy with this. It needs some fine-tuning once I'm welding it. Now the next thing to do is make the inner brace. So that's what I'm going to do next. But first I needed to make the outside, and now I'm going to focus on the inside and on how to fill this void. And this is the structural brace that goes behind there. It's a bit of an odd-shaped thing, but I'm gonna spot weld it in and then push it back so that the outer skin can rest on this. So this will be pushed a little bit back, and I'll drill a couple of holes. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 3, 4 holes, and make rosette welds or plug welds so it rests on this, so it has some structure behind it. So that's it for now. Have to get home right now, cook dinner, and we'll see if we continue tomorrow or this evening or maybe a day later. Anyway, I'm happy with how this turned out. Okay folks, we're ready to make preparations for welding. And as you can see, I have my small belt grinder, aka finger grinder, ready. And I have to clean up the edges, so I have a clean area to weld onto. Trying to do that on the entire perimeter. And as you can see, Project LS400 is wearing his surgery pajamas. Those are those fire retardant blankets, so I don't damage the window glass and the interior of the car. Maybe we have to make something up for the lower part for this carpet on the door. But anyway, let's get started and clean up the welding area. Have you set up around here? So I'm all ready and set for welding. I've been tinkering with my welder to find a better setting for the outer sheet metal. I have a low setting on the feed, on the amperage. This thingy here, I don't know what that is for. and I'm using this setting. So if you have a good GIS 200, I prefer these settings for welding the sheet metal on the outside. And also I brought my compressor so I can cool the areas. I'm not welding on the inside, I'm welding the outside, and I don't want anything to warp in here. You tend to bring a lot of heat in this material, so that's why I have my air compressor with air gun at hand to provide some cooling. And well, let's start off with this inner brace for this rocker panel. Sorry. That's the foam on the inside that's starting to burn. Had to do that first. I'm using a magnet to hold it in place. So here are 4 holes, but evenly distributed over that area. Okay, well, let's get rocking. Well, this is what it looks like right now. I had to work with the settings of the welder a bit in this area. They are fairly thick because the material, the bare material, was thinner than I thought. But anyway, I'm gonna get out the grinder and do a first run of grinding and then see how things look. I'm happy with this, by the way, and that really adds strength and structure into these panels. So I forgot to film a step, but I already been busy with the grinder, and I welded this corner piece in. Now there's an important thing to test right now before I weld everything in. I need to close the door because the underside of the door really falls into this cutout. So let's get up straight, carefully close the door. And now see how that fits. I'm not sure if it shows on camera, but it appears that the door has plenty of clearance. Maybe I can do a freeze frame of that area there. But anyway, I'm glad that fits. Now I'm gonna tack this part in. This is how it looks with the corner in. I'm gonna grind down the welds and then focus on repairing the inner panel, the wheel well, and making this lip on here. But let me first start by doing the welds and show you the end result of that. Put some zinc coating primer on there. That little corner is drying now. It's fairly smooth. I didn't want to smooth out the welds more because you run the risk of thinning out the welds too much. This is the inside. I connected the top or the inner wheel well to the outside skin with some small welds. I'm going to grind them flat because I have to make this lip in here. But that's it for this evening. It's Monday currently, and already it feels like it's Friday, so I'm heading home and get a cold beverage, and I'll pick you up tomorrow. And this is how the rocker panel looks now the primer has dried. You can see those tiny little dots of the welds. Now I could grind them flush, but I run the risk of thinning out the material too much, causing a new crack, a new rust point. And I also did this corner in the rear of the wheel arch. Oh, I ran into there, I see. Anyway, now I'm gonna apply some filler to smooth out the welds. Now this is a part you won't see because there are panels over here, but just for my own peace of mind, I want to clear this up as much as possible. Well folks, I think I'll park this episode right here because filming this episode and all that work took much more time than I originally anticipated. I just finished painting the first coat in body color and I think the end result looks quite nice considering I done the job. I'm gonna show you the end result in a second. I had planned to finish this episode with the right hand side completely done, so with the new brake in the rear back on and all the body panels back on, the rear bumper back on, but that's something for the next episode and I'll make that a short episode on the body work department. Anyway, let me pick you up and show you how things look right now. So from a distance things don't look half bad, especially the color matching don't seems to be good. It's a bit dull, as you can see. It's a bit brighter, but the paint structure is different. This is what the rear looks like now, and this is well, my entire new part. Let me open up the door, and this is what the corner looks like. Now I have to drill a hole here. Oh, I shouldn't touch the paint, it's still soft, no damage done I can see, but anyway I have to drill a hole and make a small slot for a clip that holds the lower panel, this panel over here. Yeah, and I have to apply some clear coat, but at least I'm happy with the end result, especially how this part looks. It will be covered in underbody coating, so everything in here and up there is ready. So the strut is ready to go back in, new brakes can be put on, and that's something for the next episode. Oh yeah, and before I forget, clean everything behind the rear bumper and the exhaust tips are shining now. Happy with that. So that's it for episode 21. I really hope you liked following me along. If you did, please consider subscribing, give me a like, leave a comment, and if you have any constructive feedback, especially on the part of bodyworking and painting, which is not exactly my hobby, I love to learn new things, so if you have any constructive feedback, advice, please let me know down below in the comments. For now, I would like to thank you for watching, and I hope to see you on the next one. Bye bye.